Welcome to Karim's in downtown Old Delhi. If you want to chow down on some bare bones back to the basics Indian street food, you've come to the right place. So I was not only meandering but also philandering around the mean streets of downtown Old Delhi, came across a place called Karim's and decided to give it a go. Now this is a pretty famous street side establishment around these parts, and I've been waiting to come here for quite some time. And truth be told, I ended up embarking on a serious feast in this place. One of my favorite items here actually ended up being a Buck Wild bread variety that I had for the first time. So if you want to see that life-altering bread, then stick around till the end of the video. I think you're gonna like it a lot. Anyway, before taking myself a seat, I started checking out this Indian bread-making operation. Here we got one maestro reaching deep inside this tandoor oven and slapping in some flattened bread dough against the side. That oven is hotter than a Bangkok brothel, so I'm not exactly sure how that maestro can handle the heat. But when that bread is finished baking, that maestro takes some tandoor tongs and nonchalantly tosses that bread in the general direction of the bread bin. In other words, that bread maestro is pimping out of control with some serious skill level, and I think it's safe to say I like his style. Anyway, enough about that bread maestro, now it's time for a serious Karim's feast. Here we got a piece of Tandoori Roti bread chillaxing on a plate. What else we got? We got us a nice dish of Keema over here, and we got us a nice dish of Mutton Korma over there. Wow, and what's this? We got us some chicken curry on deck. Now, as if that wasn't enough food, we actually have some chicken Mughlai over here. This is simply incredible. In other words, it's chow o'clock, baby, and right about now, I'm gonna rip myself a piece of this roti over here. So I tore that bread a new one, and before I knew it, I was dipping that bread into that chicken Mughlai gravy like a mad mammal on a mission. And at this point, I was so crazed with hunger that my survival instinct took over and I slammed that bread into my mouth. And oh my Akbar, that was a relatively decent bite. Seemed to me like that yogurt-based gravy had a little cardamom action inside. Anyway, unfortunately that chicken was not boneless, so I had to dig myself a piece off and I was inspecting it all nice and close-like. I was a hoping and a praying that that chicken did not die in vain, so I took myself a bite and whoa. Not only did I get a little meat on that bite, but I think I actually got a little cartilage action as well. I thought I'd ripped off a choice quality chunk of chicken, but apparently I was wrong. Apparently I was dead wrong. That chicken was a little sparse in the meat department, so I kicked it to the curb and got myself another chunk of chicken. Now we're talking. I think I finally found myself a piece of chicken I can work with over here. Question is this the chicken of my dreams? There's only one way to find out, and what the hell? I'm trying to get my chicken game on point, but I'm getting foiled at every turn. I'll tell you one thing, baby cakes, I'm gonna tame this damn chicken if it's the last thing I do. So I took a savage reptilian bite out of that chicken and roti combo, and oh! Man. I actually was able to take a successful bite of chicken. This is fucking incredible. I feel like I deserve some kind of award after that history-making feat. And overall, that chicken Mughlai was tasting pretty tender and pretty decent, not necessarily life-changing, but enjoyable nonetheless. So next on deck, I started spooning up some Keema action. Here we got a minced mutton meat and a greasy glistening gravy coupled with a little steamed potato pieces. So I loaded up that roti and tried to keep it nice and level so that that grease wouldn't go flying all over the place. Then I animalistically slammed that greasy bite toward my head. And oh my Mughlai, could this be the saturated fat-packed bite I've been searching for in my life? I think it is. I mean, not only was that grease tasting a tad garlicky, but I had some cumin and turmeric flavors exploding all up in my mouth. That plus that soft minced meat and those soft potatoes almost fused with that grease, and I think it's safe to say I had a winner on my hands. Truth be told, I was loving that Keema to bits, and I think I've got to rate it a 4 out of 5 Maharaja Dogs. After all, it did hit the spot, only problem was it was just a tad too salty for my liking. Nevertheless, that was a decent Keema right there. So next up, it was time for this Mutton Korma, and I grabbed this piece of bone and whoa, baby, what the hell? Seems like grabbing onto that bone was like grabbing onto the tip of an iceberg. There was a lot of meat below the surface. Just how much meat was there? I'd say there was a real lot of buck wild meat on that bone. I guess what I'm trying to say is that's a pretty good meat to bone ratio if you ask me. So I jammed that meat between that lusciously soft roti and examined it for but a moment. Then I barbarically bit down on that bite, and I gotta say I was kinda surprised. On the one hand, that meat was tasting soft, tender, and juicy, and that gravy had a nice chili powder flavor. But on the other hand, I was getting plagued by that damn saltiness again. I'm kinda wondering exactly what happened in the kitchen. Is it someone's first day or something? I feel like someone accidentally knocked a huge-ass salt barrel into the gravy vat or something. I mean, hey, I could be a tad paranoid, but I feel like someone's trying to dehydrate my ass. So I took myself another bite to verify, and unfortunately the flavor was just the same. So I have to go on ahead and give this a 3 out of 5 Maharaja Dogs. I mean, that mutton was soft and succulent, and I feel like it had so much potential. It's just a crying shame that someone went hog wild in the salt department, but anyway, let's move on to the final dish. This dish right here is called chicken curry, which is kind of a vague term in India. I mean, I know it's a curry, but what kind of curry? Can you tell me that, sweetie buns? So I started inspecting this chicken, and what the heck is that? Looks like some kind of gizzard or something. Here I am paying the big bucks, and these damn rascals gave me a chicken gizzard. If they're gonna pull a stunt like that, they might as well give me a chicken dick while they're at it, but anyway, I'm getting a tad off topic. Long story short, I got that normal piece of chicken and took myself a big-ass bite, and it was tasting A-okay. That gravy was greasy as hell and had kind of a tomatoey flavor and, of course, a salty flavor. I think I'm starting to notice a pattern in this place, and I have a funny feeling they're getting kickbacks from a salt mine. This place is using all kinds of salt in their dishes, all different kinds. So I ripped off a piece of that salty chicken and put it on the roti, then I got myself a spoonful of that salty mutton korma gravy. Basically, I wanted to load up a salt-on-salt bite over here. Can ya blame me? I mean, hey, if the bite's gonna be salty anyway, might as well max it out. Gotta grab life by the dick sometimes and carpe the fuck out of the diem. Anyway, you get the drill. The point of the matter is that salt was starting to have a cumulative effect on my palate. What started off as a mild detractor started to dominate the whole scene. I was becoming obsessed with that salt. You might even say I was feeling a tad salty about that salt, but hey, what do I know? I mean, this restaurant has been in operation for over 100 years, so maybe they know more about salt than I do. I even revisited that chicken Mughlai, and although that wasn't quite as salty, it still tasted pretty lackluster, come to think of it. So I think I'm gonna have to go ahead and rate that chicken curry and that chicken Mughlai a 3 out of 5 Maharaja Dogs. I mean, the food was good, don't get me wrong, it's just that this place was so hyped up that I was expecting a whole lot more. So last up, I got myself a sweet bread called Sher Mall. I've seen these breads being sold in Old Delhi, but I haven't really seen them in other parts of India, so I was getting pretty excited to try it out. So I ripped off a quarter of that Sher Mall and started admiring that pattern they got on there. And unlike that roti bread, which was light and fluffy, this bread felt heavy and slightly hard to the touch. So I bit that dangling piece of bread off the side, and holy fucking masala dogs, that was a nice bite. Somehow, some way, that slightly sweet, slightly saffron-y bread was tasting both a tad hard and a tad delicate. It had a milky, buttery flavor and an almost regal charm, and the best part was it wasn't salty whatsoever. That Sher Mall was sheer brilliance, and it was one of the better breads I've had in India, so I think I've got to give it a 5 out of 5 Maharaja Dogs. After all, I ended up clearing out the whole thing in a New Delhi nanosecond, and if that ain't the sign of a buck wild bread, then I don't know what is. So anyway, that about does it for this Indian street food tour, but if you wanna see more, then feel free to check out some of my previous videos. I got an Old Delhi breakfast tour, and I got an Old Delhi kebab tour, just to name a few. I got those links down in the description box. So don't forget to subscribe for all your dreams to come true, and thanks for watching this video. Why don't you leave a comment, let me know what you think.